Yeah, thank you to CSAR for organizing this evening and for inviting me to give a talk from California. I'm sorry I couldn't be there in person. It's a little bit far. Um, so this slide will play. These are cytotoxic T lymphocytes, otherwise known as killer T cells. And so these are a type of white blood cell that are in our bodies. They're part of our adaptive immune systems. And their job is to seek out and eliminate virally infected or cancerous cells. And I spent 4.5 years during my PhD working under Professor Gillian Griffiths at the Cambridge Institute for Medical Research over at the Addenbrooke site, studying these things. And over the next 10 minutes or so, I'm going to try and persuade you all why doing so is extremely important if we want to create better anti-cancer therapeutics. So if we think about treating or curing cancer from first principles, the name of the game is specificity. We're perfectly capable of killing cells that we don't like. Bleach will kill cells, cancer cells, perfectly fine. Problem is sparing the healthy cells while killing the cancer cells. And this is particularly difficult with cancer because, unlike a pathogen, cancer cells are incredibly similar to healthy cells by most biological metrics. So there are several ways that we can go about this. The most simple, the most barbaric, I guess, is surgery, just removing the tumor. This actually works incredibly well if the doctor can see where the functional tissue ends and where the tumor begins. But that's a big if, it's not always the case. The same goes for radiation therapy. This is less invasive, doesn't always involve opening up the patient, but again, you need to be able to spatially localize where the cancer is. Then we have chemotherapy and targeted chemotherapy. These, instead of killing the cancer via spatial specificity, it targets cellular pathways. So functions that the cancer cells perform selectively, that other cells do not. For example, cancer cells like to proliferate a lot. And so if we treat with drugs that target the cell cycle, target cell division, you'll prevent the cancer from growing. But you'll also prevent healthy cells that happen to also go through division a lot. For example, hair follicle cells. And then for certain cancers like breast cancer, hormones can accelerate the cancer. So hormone therapy is another option. But by far the most specific on this list, on this slide, is immunotherapy. So cancer immunotherapy leverages the armory of cancer killers that we already have in our bodies. These are T cells. So we have about 100 billion T cells in our bodies. They're in our blood, in our lymph, and they're crawling through our tissues. And the specificity comes from eons of evolution of the adaptive immune system. So each new T cell produced by our body has its own unique T cell receptor. And this T cell receptor can recognize a random non-self molecule. So when a cell is infected with a virus or becomes cancerous, it will inevitably produce non-self proteins that are then exposed on the surface of those cells for T cells to sample. And because there's this huge diversity of T cell receptors at any given time in the body, about 100 million unique T cell receptors, eventually a T cell will come along that has a receptor that can bind to that non-self molecule, and the T cell will activate, proliferate a lot, creating a legion of killers with the same T cell receptor, and it can go on to kill the cells expressing that foreign molecule. And so that's what you're seeing here in this video. In magenta here are T cells, and then the blue cells with the yellow nuclei are cancer cells, actually a B cell lymphoma. This is a video I took on the microscope in the Griffiths lab, and you'll see the moment that the cancer cell dies, the yellow nucleus here pops, disperses, and that's how you know that the cancer cell has been killed by the T cell. So this process happens all the time in our bodies, but the problem is it happens easily in a petri dish, but in our bodies, the cancer can fight back too. So they create tumors that create immunosuppressive microenvironments. And these can shut down T cell responses or simply block them from even getting into the middle of the tumor at all. So now I need you all to memorize this slide. Not really. So this slide shows the T cell signaling pathways. So these are the molecular events that are happening inside the T cells. And what I'd like to draw your attention to are these two cell surface molecules on the top right here, CTLA4 and PD1. So in the 1990s, these receptors were discovered by some scientists, And they realized that these receptors act as a brake on T cells. And so during normal infections, they play an important role in the resolution of an immune response. So they turn off the T cells when they're no longer needed. But cancer has leveraged this cellular pathway to shut down T cells and prevent them killing the cancer. And so the people who found these receptors developed antibodies that could then block those inhibitory receptors to prevent the cancer from blocking the T cells. And so here, this is the mouse data from the original 1996 paper. And that you can see that when treated with the anti-CTLA4 antibody, the tumors disappear to nothing in this mouse model. And this resulted in the researchers winning the Nobel Prize in 2018. But more importantly than Nobel Prizes and mouse data is the fact that these immunotherapies have saved a lot of lives. So there was a 2024 study by the US National Veterans Health Administration. They looked just in their cohort, in patients that they treat, between 2010 and 2013, these therapies had led to an increase of almost 16,000 life years in that 13-year span, which is quite incredible. But antibody-based immunotherapy is just the first, the first frontier. The state of the art right now goes one further. CAR T cell therapy, which you may have heard of, takes T cells from cancer patients out of the body, activates them to get them to proliferate in a petri dish, genetically modifies them to equip them with new receptors, artificial receptors that can then specifically recognize a particular cancer. You then re-inject those CAR T cells into the patient, they then find the cancer and eliminate it. This paradigm has huge potential because you can modify the T cells in any way imaginable, but it's currently limited, especially against solid tumors, and it often comes with side effects that come from injecting billions of T cells at once. But if every T cell can be made more effective, then the doses can be decreased, and the on-target efficacy of this therapy will increase. So the question becomes, how do we make individual T cells better cancer killers? And so just as the research in the 1990s into T cell signaling pathways enabled the immune checkpoint inhibitors, those antibody therapies, now research in basic T cell biology can catapult the potential for adoptive T cell therapy, for CAR T cell therapy. So I'll just give you a few examples from my own research during my PhD that could perhaps illustrate this, why fundamental cell biology in T cells has such great therapeutic potential. So I was interested in a particular protein in T cells called CDC42. That's not that important. But to investigate the role of this protein, I did what many cell biologists do, which is to use CRISPR to knock out the gene that encodes CDC42. So then by comparing wild type cells, which have the normal gene, to cells that lack the gene, the knockout cells, you can then infer the function of CDC42. And so I did this, except in my case, I found that the function of the T cells, surprisingly, was actually boosted across the board in the knockout cells. And this is puzzling because we know that mutations, when people are born with mutations in the CDC42 gene, they normally get immunodeficiency. So I was seeing the exact opposite of the expected effect. And it turned out that actually the T cells were detecting the fact that CRISPR had sliced up their DNA, and they underwent a cellular response known as transcriptional adaptation. They basically turned on a bunch of genes to compensate for the loss of CDC42. And in doing so, massively boosted their ability to kill cancer cells. So this graph on the right shows the knockout cells in orange killing cancer targets compared to the control over time. This is degranulation, which is a measure of how they kill the cells, and this is the T cell receptor signaling. So a measure of actually those pathways that I showed you earlier. And it's all boosted in those knockout cells. And so this is actually published, and you can, if you're interested, you can go find it in the Journal of Cell Biology. But what's really exciting actually is that the group who discovered the phenomenon of transcriptional adaptation, they recently filed patents for methods to trigger the process to treat Duchenne muscular dystrophy. So to me, it seems like incredibly low-hanging fruit to leverage this phenomenon of transcriptional adaptation to enhance CAR T cell therapy against cancer. Something else that I looked at during my PhD was the mechanisms of killing in T cells. So T cells kill via this process called polarized secretion. So here you have your T cell. It has these molecular highways called microtubules, these green filaments. And when it meets a cancer cell, it kills it by basically trafficking these secretory lysosomes, which contain cytotoxic proteins, and basically injecting them into the cancer cell at this immune synapse. And so we know that these secretory lysosomes move down these highways via a motor protein called dynein. And you may be familiar with this really cool animation, I hope that's playing for you, of a motor protein walking along a microtubule, dragging a vesicle. This is exactly what's happening in the T cells and how they kill the cancer cells. But we don't really know how that dynein is activated or how it's regulated, how the T cells turn it on and off. And so, I'll not listen to 4 hours of Chopin. Next slide. There we go. So I discovered that T cells actually express a novel protein isoform, which I'm not telling you what it is exactly because this isn't yet published, but it will be soon, hopefully. And so normally you can see here are the microscope images of T cells killing cancer cells. So the T cell is this one on the left here. Here it is outlined, and you can see that these secretory lysosomes are all clustered close to the cancer cell. Whereas when you inhibit this protein, they stay at the far end of the T cells. And actually, I could image the protein itself with the secretory lysosomes moving towards the cancer cell. And so this protein, this novel protein isoform, seems to basically control the activation of dynein in T cells. And this discovery may seem far removed from cancer therapeutics, but understanding these fundamental mechanisms can always open the door to therapeutics. That's the beauty of T cell research. So for example, is there a way to ensure that this protein is expressed at really high levels in T cells, in CAR T cells? Can we engineer CAR T cells to have particularly active form of this protein? Or perhaps we can delete negative regulators of this protein in CAR T cells. There's lots of possibilities here to be tested. So the take-home message that I want to leave you with is that a deeper understanding of the fundamentals of T cell biology will allow us to conceive of and then develop superior cell-based immunotherapies, this frontier, the state-of-the-art of cancer immunotherapy. And of course, the ethos of CSAR is vital here, and producing cell biologists who keep in the back of their minds, societal application of their research is really important, and it's something that I'm taking forward in my work as a postdoc as well here in California. So I hope I haven't eaten too much into the evening, but thank you very much for your attention. Of course, the work was funded by the Wellcome Trust, and thank you to the university and my department and my lab and my supervisor. If you want to keep up with the research, you could follow me on social media or the lab, and you can email me there, and I'll take any questions if anyone has any.
Thank you. That was a fascinating talk. Good to hear about the progress in CAR T cells. We had a talk about them a couple of years ago, and they seem a very promising, if difficult, technique. I also thought it was fantastic that as a physicist, I thought it was fantastic that you're elucidating the mechanism of how the protein is transported. That's really good. So are there any questions from the audience? Yes.
Thank you very much. Firstly, very, very interesting. So thank you for coming here and speaking to all of us. The question I had was a question of efficacy. So do you see differential between efficacy based on the root form or the basis of the cancer, i.e. if the cancer is formed by inherited genomics, do you see efficacy go up or down given this is effectively a genetic mutation?
So for CAR T cells in the clinic, currently the only FDA-approved ones are for B lymphomas. And the problem is developing those CAR receptors that will specifically target a molecular signature on the cancer that you're interested in. But in theory, you can develop a CAR receptor against whatever you want. So if there are inherited cancers, which I think your question was about, then you can develop a receptor that you can modify the T cell with to take out that specific mutated protein. Does that answer your question?
Yes. Any other questions? Yep, one more.
Yeah, thank you. It's super interesting. I just wanted to clarify the sort of adaptive transcriptional response from your mutant. So what's the driver of that? So what's the determinant?
Sure.
Like molecular definitions of how it increases.
So it's I'm going to assume some level of cell biology knowledge. So how it works is the double-strand break in DNA caused by the CRISPR-Cas9 here, triggers something called nonsense-mediated decay, which is where the cell detects basically mRNA being produced from genes that shouldn't be there. So you end up with a half gene that's been cut in half and produces this mutant mRNA, and that triggers something called nonsense-mediated decay. I think that's about as far as we sort of know the mechanism works, but in terms of exactly how the cell knows what to upregulate to compensate, it still baffles me. I mean, we did proteomics, which is when you look at all the proteins expressed in the cells comparatively. We did RNA sequencing, so we could see the entire proteome, the entire transcriptome, and compare how they were different between cells that had transcriptional adaptation and not. So we could pin down how the cells are improving, the sort of exactly why, or the precise pathways in each case are currently not so clear.
And I'm assuming that that's present for any type of CRISPR. So it's not just for your CDC gene.
So no, it's actually seems to be gene specific. So I tested, for example, in the paper, I tested 2 family members of CDC42, very closely related to CDC42, and I didn't see any transcriptional adaptation. So it seems to be cell type specific and gene specific, and I guess I got lucky when I was looking at, for 4 years I got unlucky because I thought, I'm never going to figure out what this protein does, and then I realized, oh, this is actually kind of cool. Yeah.
Thanks.
I think a lot of progress in science is from getting lucky, Adam. I think we'd better call a halt there. Thank you very much, Adam. That was very interesting. Good luck with your work at the Salk. I hope it's going well. I hope you're not subject to the horrible US weather that's going on a bit south of you at the moment.
It's perfectly sunny outside here in California.
and good luck with the rest of the research.
Thank you.
Thank you.